Xerxes I ruled the Persian Empire from 486 BC up until 465 BC. The Persian Empire was one of the largest in the world at that time. It covered most of modern-day Middle East and parts of northern Africa, and Xerxes had ambitions to make it even bigger. However, Xerxes' father and predecessor, Darius I, had died in the process of gathering a second army to invade Greece, leaving Xerxes with the task of finishing his father's work. To accomplish this task, Xerxes gathered an incredibly large army and navy, and in the spring of 480 BC, Xerxes, his fleet, and army left for Greece. The Persian forces were numbered in the hundreds of thousands, with 10,000 elite warriors known as the Persian Immortals. When Xerxes and his army reached the Hellespont Strait, Xerxes' architects and engineers developed a brilliant way of allowing the Persian forces to come and go between Persia and Europe without having to travel 800 miles out of the way. 2 pontoon bridges were built across the strait out of a total of 674 boats. The boats were placed side by side, anchored down, then connected by long cables on each side. After that, wooden planks were used to build a platform on the boats that allowed the army to cross the strait. The Persian forces continued towards Athens until they reached the narrow Thermopylae Pass, where they were met by a small force of Greek warriors led by King Leonidas of Sparta. Even though the Spartans were vastly outnumbered, they managed to hold off the Persians for 7 days. Close to the end, the Greeks were betrayed by a local resident who revealed a path to the Persians that led behind the Greek lines. The Persians took advantage, and when Leonidas realized that he was being outflanked, he made most of his army retreat. To guard the retreat, Leonidas kept 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans. Most of them were killed, and the Persian forces advanced to Athens. When Xerxes reached Athens, the city was deserted, and what happened next is quite controversial. It is said that when Xerxes saw that Athens was deserted, he was outraged and ordered his men to burn the city to the ground. Then the following morning, he immediately regretted his decision and ordered the city rebuilt. Others argue that during the panic of evacuating the city, an Athenian accidentally set the city on fire instead of Xerxes setting the city on fire in a state of rage. While all of this was happening, another battle was taking place at sea. The Greeks were greatly outnumbered by the Persian fleet, but as a result of subterfuge, the Greek fleet defeated the Persians. Due to a potential revolt in Babylon, Xerxes was forced to send most of his army home, leaving a smaller army in Greece. But shortly after, the army Xerxes had left in Greece was defeated, thus ending Xerxes' military slip-ups. When Xerxes returned from Greece, he oversaw the construction of monuments left unfinished by his father, such as the Gate of All Nations and the Hall of 100 Columns at Persepolis. Then, in 465 BC, Xerxes was murdered, marking the end of his reign and the end of the glory days for the Persian Empire. Xerxes was murdered by a man named Artabanus. Artabanus blamed the murder on Xerxes' eldest son, who was then killed. Eventually, the throne was given to one of Xerxes' other sons named Artaxerxes, who went on to become a great ruler.